You think the rules don't apply to you.
HOA Karen pulled a knife on a Navy SEAL's son Shay. Had no idea what would happen next.
I kill you, boy.
The HOA president had terrorized this peaceful neighborhood for years with her petty power trips and obvious hatred toward certain families. Today, she was about to make the worst mistake of her entire life. When a quiet 17-year-old boy stopped to help an elderly woman carry her groceries inside, this woman saw it as an act of defiance against her authority. Her rage exploded like a volcano. She grabbed him forcefully, then pulled out a knife and lunged at him. But what she didn't know was that his father was a decorated Navy SEAL who had been training him in self-defense since he was just a child. What happened next would absolutely shock the entire community and land her behind bars for years. Before you watch this full story, please comment below and let me know which country you're watching from. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more amazing true stories like this one. Merry Christmas to all of you. The autumn sun hung low over Oak Ridge Heights, casting those long, beautiful shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns and pristine sidewalks of this exclusive gated community. 17-year-old Marcus Chen walked home from school that afternoon, his backpack slung casually over one shoulder, his earbuds dangling loosely around his neck. He had turned off his music about 3 blocks back, preferring instead to enjoy the quiet rustle of fallen leaves and the distant sound of children's laughter as they played in their yards. Marcus had lived in Oak Ridge Heights for exactly 4 months now. 4 months since his father, Commander James Chen, had been deployed overseas on a classified military mission. 4 months since his mother had decided they needed a fresh start in a neighborhood where everyone smiled politely at HOA meetings and complained endlessly about lawn heights and mailbox colors. If Marcus was being completely honest with himself, he absolutely hated living here. It wasn't because the houses weren't beautiful or because the schools weren't excellent. He hated it because everything felt so fake, so manufactured and artificial. Like living inside a glossy catalog where real life wasn't allowed to disturb the carefully arranged perfection that everyone worked so hard to maintain. As Marcus turned onto Maple Drive that afternoon, he noticed elderly Mrs. Patterson struggling with heavy grocery bags near her car. Without even thinking twice about it, he jogged over to help her. "Need some help with those, Mrs. Patterson?" he called out. The elderly woman's wrinkled face absolutely lit up with gratitude. "Oh, Marcus, you're such a sweet boy," she said warmly. "My daughter was supposed to come by and help me, but she's running late as usual, and these bags are just so heavy for my old arms." Marcus grabbed for bags effortlessly, his movements balanced and efficient, and aware in a way that showed his father's extensive training. Commander Chen had started teaching his son basic self-defense and situational awareness techniques when Marcus was only 12 years old. Not because he wanted his son to become a fighter, but because he wanted to make certain his son knew how to survive in a dangerous world. "I'll carry these right to your door for you," Marcus said, already walking toward her house. He didn't see the woman watching him intently from across the street. He didn't notice the way her eyes narrowed into slits, the way her jaw clenched tight, the way her fingers curled slowly into fists. Karen Pettin was watching Marcus's every move, and what she was about to do would shock everyone in this neighborhood. This wasn't just another petty HOA violation. This was about to become a violent crime that would make national headlines. Stay with me, because what happens next is almost impossible to believe. Karen Pettin, known to most residents simply as the HOA enforcer, stood rigidly on her perfectly edged lawn, her expensive designer sunglasses reflecting the afternoon sunlight. Everything about Karen was sharp and cutting. Her angular haircut looked like it could slice paper. Her pointed facial features seemed permanently arranged in disapproval. Her voice at community meetings could cut through steel. She had been serving as HOA president for 6 long years, ruling this neighborhood with an iron fist carefully wrapped in passive-aggressive emails and endless violation notices, and she had been keeping her eye on the Chen family ever since the day they moved into the community. Marcus returned from Mrs. Patterson's front porch a few minutes later, waving goodbye as the grateful elderly woman thanked him again. He pulled his earbuds back in, his mind already thinking about the calculus homework waiting for him at home, about the brief email he had received from his father that morning. It had been carefully worded to pass through military censors, but it was still warm with unspoken love. He didn't make it even 20 feet down the sidewalk before Karen Petton stepped directly into his path, blocking his way home. Marcus stopped walking immediately and pulled out one earbud. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said politely. "Don't you ma'am me?" Karen snapped, her voice dripping with acid. "I've been watching you very carefully." Marcus felt his stomach tighten uncomfortably. This wasn't the first time Karen had confronted him about something trivial, but something in her tone today felt different. Dangerous, even. "Is there a problem?" Marcus kept his voice level and respectful, just like his father had taught him. His father's words echoed clearly in his mind. "Stay calm. Assess the situation. Don't escalate anything." "You were trespassing on Mrs. Patterson's private property," Karen said, stepping even closer to him. She was a tall woman, nearly 6 feet, and she used her height like a weapon to intimidate people. "This is a clear violation of Community Code 7.3, unauthorized presence on private property." Marcus blinked in confusion. "I was helping her carry her groceries inside. She asked me to help her." "I didn't see anyone give you written permission to be on that property," Karen said coldly. "She asked me to help her," Marcus repeated patiently. "She needed help with heavy bags. Don't you dare talk back to me." Karen's voice rose sharply, and several neighbors emerged from their houses, drawn by the commotion in the street. Good, Marcus thought to himself. Witnesses. People who can see what's really happening here. "I'm not talking back, ma'am," Marcus said calmly. "I'm just trying to explain what actually happened." Karen's face flushed an angry red color. "You people think you can just move into our neighborhood and completely ignore all our rules," she hissed. "Your lawn was 3.2 inches tall last week. The regulation clearly states 3 inches exactly. I've sent 3 official notices to your mother, and she's ignored every single one of them. You people." The words hung in the air between them like poison gas. Marcus felt heat rising in his chest, but he pushed it down firmly. His father had warned him about people exactly like this. People who wielded their petty power like swords. People who found their entire sense of self-worth in controlling others. "My mom works 2 full-time jobs since my dad deployed overseas," Marcus said quietly. "She's doing her absolute best under difficult circumstances." Marcus was trying to de-escalate this situation peacefully, just like his Navy SEAL father had trained him to do. But Karen was about to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. What she does in the next 60 seconds will leave you absolutely speechless. Keep watching. Your father's military service doesn't exempt you from HOA regulations, Karen shot back viciously. And speaking of regulations, you're currently loitering on a public sidewalk without any legitimate purpose. That's code 12.6. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "You're actually telling me I can't stand on a sidewalk?" "Not without a legitimate purpose. You can't," Karen said. "This is a family neighborhood. We have standards here that must be maintained." Something in her voice made Marcus's skin crawl. The way she emphasized family neighborhood. The way she put so much weight on the word standards. He had heard those coded words before when traveling with his parents through smaller towns. Words that really meant you don't belong here with us. "I'm going home now," Marcus said firmly, moving to step around her and continue on his way. Karen grabbed his arm. Marcus froze completely. His father's extensive training kicked in immediately and automatically. Assess the threat level. Identify all possible escape routes. Please don't respond with any force, unless it's necessary. Karen's grip was surprisingly strong for a woman her age, her fingers digging painfully into his bicep through his jacket. "Don't you dare walk away when I'm talking to you," Karen hissed at him. "Let go of me, please." Marcus kept his voice steady and controlled, but his heart was hammering hard in his chest. I'll let go when I'm good and ready, Karen said. You need to learn some respect, young man. You need to learn that actions have consequences in this community. More neighbors had gathered now, forming a growing crowd. Mrs. Patterson stood on her porch, looking absolutely distressed. A young mother clutched her toddler protectively, watching nervously. Mr. Rodriguez from 3 doors down had his phone out, though Marcus couldn't tell if he was filming everything or just holding it. Ma'am, you need to let go of me right now, Marcus said, and his voice carried a new edge. Not threatening, but firm. His father's command voice. Karen's eyes widened with pure rage. Are you threatening me? She screamed. Did everyone hear that? This thug just threatened me in front of all of you. I didn't threaten you, Marcus said clearly. I asked you to let go of my arm, liar, Karen screamed, and suddenly her other hand dove into her expensive designer purse. Everything seemed to slow down to an agonizing crawl. Marcus saw the glint of metal catching the sunlight. His training took over instantly, automatically, like a switch being flipped in his brain. His left hand came up in a deflecting motion, while his right hand pulled free of her grip. He stepped backward quickly, creating distance between them, his body automatically falling into a defensive stance. Karen Patone stood there in the middle of the sidewalk, holding a kitchen knife with a 4-inch blade. The entire world seemed to stop breathing. You're going to learn your lesson today, Karen said, her voice shaking with fury and something else, something unhinged and dangerous. You people think you can come into our neighborhood, break our rules, disrespect people like me who keep this place nice, but I'm going to teach you what happens. I'm going to show everyone here what happens when you don't follow the rules. She lunged at him with the knife. Marcus sidestepped smoothly. His father's training was as natural as breathing to him now. Karen's forward momentum carried her past him, and Marcus moved again, keeping the knife in his peripheral vision the entire time, maintaining a safe distance. Someone call 911. Mrs. Patterson screamed from her porch. I am, Mr. Rodriguez shouted back, his phone now clearly pressed to his ear. Karen spun around wildly, her eyes unfocused. He attacked me. She screamed at the crowd. You all saw it. He attacked me, and I'm just defending myself. Karen had just committed assault with a deadly weapon in front of a dozen witnesses, and it was all being recorded on video. But she wasn't done yet. She was about to attack again, and what this 17-year-old boy does next will shock you. This is where his Navy SEAL father's training truly pays off. Put the knife down. The commanding voice came from across the street. Dr. William Hayes, a trauma surgeon who had just pulled into his driveway. Put it down right now. But Karen wasn't listening to anyone anymore. She was beyond reason, beyond any sense of reality. Years of petty power and manufactured superiority had twisted something deep inside her soul, and now it had finally snapped completely. She came at Marcus again, harder and faster this time. This time, Marcus didn't just dodge. As Karen's knife hand extended toward him, Marcus stepped inside her reach, moving closer to the danger instead of away from it, just like his father had taught him. His left hand trapped her wrist firmly, while his right palm struck her elbow joint. The knife clattered loudly onto the concrete sidewalk. Before Karen could even react or understand what had happened, Marcus had swept her legs out from under her and guided her down to the ground, controlling her descent carefully so she wouldn't get hurt in the fall. He had her completely pinned in 3 seconds flat, one knee on her back, both her arms secured behind her. She struggled violently and screamed, but Marcus held firm. Not tight enough to cause her any pain, just enough pressure to keep her completely immobilized. Stop struggling, Marcus said quietly, his voice calm. The police are coming. Just stop fighting. Karen screamed obscenities, racial slurs, and threats. Marcus closed his eyes and counted his breaths exactly the way his father had taught him during training. In 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out for 4 counts. Stay calm. Stay in control of yourself. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer and closer. The next 3 hours blurred together like a confusing dream. Police arrived, 8 officers with lights flashing everywhere. Marcus stayed exactly where he was, keeping his hands visible at all times. His voice calm and clear, as he explained everything that had happened. The knife was carefully bagged as evidence. Witness statements were taken from everyone who had seen the incident. Mr. Rodriguez's video showed absolutely everything: Karen grabbing Marcus first, Karen pulling the knife from her purse, Karen attacking him twice, and Marcus defending himself using minimal force to stop her. Karen was arrested, still screaming about how Marcus had attacked her, how she was the real victim, how she was going to sue everyone involved. A police officer took Marcus aside, a kind-faced African-American woman with sergeant stripes on her uniform. "You okay, son?" she asked gently. "Yes, ma'am," Marcus answered. "That was some seriously impressive control you showed out there," she said. "Where'd you learn to move like that?" "My father. He's a Navy SEAL. Commander James Chen." The sergeant's eyebrows rose noticeably. "Commander Chen is your father. I've heard of him. He gave a training seminar on tactical response at our department 3 years ago." She looked at Marcus with new respect in her eyes. "He trained you very well. You could have hurt that woman badly if you'd wanted to, but you didn't. You used exactly the amount of force necessary to keep yourself and others safe. That takes real discipline." Marcus felt tears prickling his eyes, for the first time since the entire incident had begun. "I just want to go home now." "We'll get you there soon," she promised. "Your mom's on her way here right now." 20 minutes later, Sarah Chen arrived, still wearing her nursing scrubs from work, her face absolutely pale with terror and rage. She grabbed Marcus and held him so tight he could barely breathe, her entire body shaking. "I'm okay, Mom," Marcus whispered. "I'm okay." "She pulled a knife on you." Sarah's voice broke completely. "She pulled a knife on my baby. I'm not a baby, Mom. I'm 17 years old." Sarah pulled back just enough to cup his face in both her hands. "You'll always be my baby," she said fiercely. "Always." Then her expression hardened like steel. "Where is she? Where is that woman?" "Mom, don't." But Sarah was already marching toward the police cars. The sergeant intercepted her smoothly, speaking in low, calming tones. Marcus watched his mother transform from terrified parent to fierce protector to exhausted human being, all in the span of about 5 minutes. Marcus was safe, but this story was far from over. The entire incident had been captured on video, and it was about to go viral across the country. Karen had no idea what was coming for her, and Marcus's father. He was about to find out what happened to his son in the worst possible way. "Keep watching." They drove home in complete silence. Sarah's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles turned white. When they pulled into their driveway, Marcus noticed something that made his throat tighten with emotion. Several neighbors had put out small handmade signs on their front lawns. Signs that read, "We stand with the Chens. Marcus is a hero, and thank you." Mrs. Patterson was waiting on their front porch with a warm casserole dish in her hands. Mr. Rodriguez and his wife stood in their own yard, waving supportively. Dr. Hayes jogged over as they got out of the car. "Sarah, Marcus," he said, slightly out of breath. "I just wanted to tell you both that what happened today was absolutely unconscionable. I'm testifying at any hearing, any trial that happens. What I witnessed was attempted assault with a deadly weapon, and Marcus's response was completely justified and appropriate." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, William. Thank you so much." After Dr. Hayes left, after the casserole was safely stored in the refrigerator, after Sarah had made Marcus drink water and eat something, and promised multiple times that he was really okay, they sat together on the couch in the darkening living room. "We need to tell your father what happened," Sarah said quietly. Marcus shook his head firmly. "Mom, no. He's on a dangerous mission right now. He can't be worrying about this situation. It's over. I'm fine, Marcus." "Mom, please," Marcus interrupted. "When he gets back home safely, we'll tell him everything that happened. But right now, He needs to focus completely on staying alive over there. If he finds out his son was attacked with a knife and he's thousands of miles away, unable to do anything about it, Marcus's voice cracked. It'll destroy him inside. Sarah pulled Marcus close, resting her chin on top of his head, the way she used to do when he was small. When did you get so grown up? I had good teachers, Marcus said softly. They sat together in silence as night fell over Oak Ridge Heights. The legal proceedings moved surprisingly quickly. Karen Pettin was formally charged with assault with a deadly weapon, false imprisonment, and after further investigation by detectives, a hate crime enhancement was added to the charges. Her expensive lawyer tried to paint her as a concerned citizen who was defending her neighborhood, but Mr. Rodriguez's crystal-clear video was absolutely damning. So were the testimonies of Mrs. Patterson, Dr. Hayes, and 17 other neighbors who came forward to describe years of Karen's harassment and discrimination, particularly targeting families of color. The HOA board held an emergency meeting and unanimously voted to remove Karen as president immediately. They also voted to dissolve several of the more ridiculous regulations that Karen had personally implemented over the years. Marcus returned to school the very next day, despite his mother's protests that he should take some time off to recover. He didn't want time off. He wanted normal. He wanted to pretend that his hands didn't still shake whenever he heard sudden loud noises. The story had gone completely viral online. HOA Karen attacks Navy SEAL's son, instantly regrets it. Read the headlines everywhere. Marcus absolutely hated the headlines, hated the way they reduced something genuinely traumatic to a clickbait revenge fantasy. People online acted like it was justice, like it was satisfying entertainment. They didn't understand that he hadn't wanted to fight anyone. He had just wanted to help an elderly woman carry her groceries inside. The trial was coming, and Marcus was going to have to testify about the most traumatic day of his life. But first, his father was about to find out what happened in a way that would break his heart. The video call that's coming next will bring you to tears. Stay with me. 3 weeks after the incident, Marcus was upstairs doing homework when his mother called him downstairs. Her voice sounded strange, tight, and emotional. Marcus took the stairs 2 at a time. Mom, what's wrong? Sarah stood in the living room, her laptop open on the coffee table. On the screen, via video call, was Commander James Chen. Marcus's entire world stopped. His father looked older than he had just 4 months ago. Thinner, more tired, but his eyes, those dark, intelligent eyes, were blazing with a mixture of love, fury, and pain. Dad, Marcus breathed. Marcus, James's voice was rough. Why am I finding out from a Navy intelligence briefing that my son was attacked with a knife? Marcus felt his stomach drop. Dad, 3 weeks ago, Marcus. 3 weeks. James's voice was controlled but shaking. I've been sitting in briefings where they mentioned the Oak Ridge Heights incident as an example of civilian threat assessment. It took me 2 full days to get confirmation that the minor who successfully defended himself against an armed assailant was my own son. I didn't want you to worry, Marcus said quietly. James's expression cracked. Marcus, I'm your father. Worrying about you is coded into my DNA. Do you have any idea what it's like to find out your child was in mortal danger and you weren't there? Do you know what it's like to watch grainy security footage of some woman pulling a knife on your son and realize you couldn't protect him? But I was fine, Marcus said. I did exactly what you taught me. I stayed calm. I didn't escalate. You were perfect, James interrupted, his voice thick with emotion. You were absolutely perfect. I've reviewed the footage with my entire team. Your response was textbook, completely professional. You did everything right. His voice broke. But you shouldn't have had to, Marcus. You shouldn't have to defend yourself from adults who are supposed to be part of your community. You should get to be a kid helping an elderly neighbor without any fear. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. I miss you, Dad. I miss you, too, son. So much. James wiped his own eyes. Listen to me carefully. The woman who attacked you, Karen Pettin, she's facing very serious charges. The prosecution has more than enough evidence to put her away for a significant amount of time, but there's going to be a preliminary hearing in 2 weeks. Your mother and I have been talking, and we want you to testify. I have too, Marcus asked. No, not legally, James said, but I think you should. Not for revenge, not to hurt her, but because what she did was wrong, and there needs to be real consequences. Other kids in that neighborhood need to know that adults don't get to threaten them, don't get to put their hands on them, don't get to pull weapons on them. Your testimony could make a real difference. Marcus looked at his mother. Sarah nodded encouragingly. What do I say? Marcus asked. You tell the truth, James said firmly. You tell them exactly what happened, how you felt, what you were thinking. You let them see who you really are, a good kid who was trying to help someone. And you let them see who she is, someone who let hatred and power corrupt her into something dangerous. The preliminary hearing was held on a gray November morning. Marcus wore the suit his father had bought him for his 16th birthday, dark blue with a subtle stripe. Sarah sat beside him, holding his hand so tight it almost hurt. True to his word, Commander James Chen sat on Marcus's other side, his dress uniform absolutely immaculate, his presence like a wall of protection. He had arrived 2 days earlier, embracing Marcus for a full 5 minutes without saying a single word, just holding his son and breathing. The courtroom was smaller than Marcus had expected. Karen Pettin sat at the defendant's table with her lawyer, refusing to look in Marcus's direction. She had lost considerable weight, her expensive clothes hanging loosely. Her hair had been carefully styled to look softer, more vulnerable. Marcus recognized the strategy immediately, make her look like a victim. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer Wong, had prepared Marcus thoroughly. Tell the truth, don't embellish anything. If you don't remember something, say so. Let the evidence speak for itself. Marcus took the stand, his heart pounding hard. He was sworn in, his voice surprisingly steady, as he promised to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Jennifer Wong approached him. Marcus, can you tell us what happened on October 3rd? Marcus told the story. Walking home from school, helping Mrs. Patterson with her groceries. Karen is confronting him. The escalation, the knife, his defense. He kept his voice level and factual, the way his father had taught him to deliver after-action reports. When he described the moment Karen pulled the knife, he heard gasps from the gallery. He saw several people crying. How did you feel when you saw the knife? Jennifer asked. Marcus paused, scared, but also focused. My dad taught me what to do if someone threatens me with a weapon. So part of me was terrified, but another part was following my training. Assess, react, control. Did you want to hurt Miss Pet? No, ma'am. I just wanted to stop her from hurting me, or anyone else. I kept thinking about the little kids in the neighborhood. What if she'd done this to one of them, someone who couldn't defend themselves? That thought terrified me more than the knife did. No further questions. Marcus's testimony was powerful, but the defense lawyer was about to try to tear him apart. What happens next in this courtroom will show you exactly why this case made national headlines. The verdict that's coming will restore your faith in justice. Karen's lawyer approached. Marcus, you say you were scared, but the video shows you moving very confidently, very efficiently. That doesn't look like fear to me. Fear and training aren't mutually exclusive, Marcus said calmly. I was scared, but I knew what to do. You train in martial arts, don't you? My father has taught me self-defense. Yes. So you're trained to fight. I'm trained to defend myself. There's a significant difference. Isn't it possible that you overreacted? That Ms. Patton was trying to get your attention, and you saw an opportunity to show off your skills? Marcus stared at him. She pulled a knife on me, allegedly. There's video evidence. Video can be misleading. Maybe she was reaching for something else, and you attacked first. Jennifer Wong shot to her feet. Your Honor, the video evidence clearly shows. The judge raised a hand. I've seen the video, Counselor. Mr. Chen, you may answer the question. Marcus looked directly at Karen's lawyer. Mrs. Patone grabbed me and held me against my will. She pulled a knife from her purse and lunged at me twice. I didn't attack her. I defended myself using the minimum force necessary to protect myself and others. If I'd wanted to hurt her, I had multiple opportunities. But that's not what my father taught me. He taught me to protect life, including the life of someone trying to hurt me. The lawyer looked flustered. No further questions. The hearing concluded with the judge ruling there was more than sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Karen's bail was revoked after the prosecution argued she posed a continued threat to the community. She screamed as she was led away in handcuffs, still insisting she was the victim, still demanding justice for what she called an attack against her. The jury trial took place in January. Commander Chen had extended his military leave, pulling strings at the Pentagon to ensure he could be present for every single day of the proceedings. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. Video evidence, witness testimony, character witnesses who described Karen's years of harassment and discrimination. A psychiatrist testified that Karen displayed narcissistic personality tendencies and a dangerously inflated sense of authority. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. On January 23rd, they returned with a guilty verdict on all counts: assault with a deadly weapon, false imprisonment, and hate crime enhancements. Karen showed absolutely no emotion as the verdict was read, her face blank, her eyes empty. At sentencing 2 weeks later, the judge addressed Karen directly. Ms. Patton, you held a position of trust in your community. You were given authority over certain aspects of neighborhood governance, and you abused that authority repeatedly and maliciously. When a 17-year-old boy performed a simple act of kindness, you saw it as a threat to your power. You escalated a non-incident into a violent assault. You pulled a weapon on a child, and even now, you show no remorse, no understanding of the harm you caused. The judge sentenced Karen to 5 years in prison with mandatory counseling and a permanent restraining order preventing her from ever contacting the Chen family or serving in any HOA capacity anywhere in the future. As Karen was led away, she finally broke. "This isn't fair," she screamed. "I was protecting my neighborhood. I was doing my job. He didn't belong there." The bailiffs removed her, her voice echoing down the hallway. Marcus felt his father's hand on his shoulder, steady and strong. He felt his mother's hand in his, and for the first time in months, he felt that justice had truly been served. Spring came to Oak Ridge Heights, bringing new growth and new beginnings to the community. The HOA under new leadership implemented sweeping reforms, removing discriminatory regulations, establishing clear oversight procedures, and creating a community fund to support families of deployed service members. Mrs. Patterson hosted a neighborhood barbecue in Marcus's honor. Half the street showed up, bringing food and stories and heartfelt apologies. "We should have stood up to her years ago," Mr. Rodriguez said quietly to James. "We let her behavior slide because it was easier than confronting her. I'm sorry your family paid the price for our cowardice." James shook his hand firmly. "You stood up when it mattered most. That's what counts." Marcus found himself surrounded by younger kids from the neighborhood, all wanting to hear about that knife fight. He downplayed it significantly, emphasizing the boring parts, the training, the discipline, the importance of staying calm. "The goal isn't to win a fight," Marcus told a wide-eyed 12-year-old named Tommy. "The goal is not to have to fight at all, but if you have absolutely no choice, you defend yourself and others. That's it. There's nothing heroic about it." Later that evening, as the sun set and neighbors lingered over dessert, Marcus sat with his father on the back porch. "How are you really doing?" James asked. Marcus thought about it. "Better. Mrs. Kim helps. Talking to you helps. Knowing she can't hurt anyone else helps. You know this wasn't your fault, right?" "None of it, I know. But I keep thinking, what if I hadn't had your training? What if I had been someone else?" Someone who didn't know how to defend themselves? James nodded slowly. That's the question that keeps me up at night, too. Because you're right. Not every kid has a father who's a SEAL. Not every kid knows how to handle a violent situation. And that means there are kids out there who would have been hurt, maybe killed, in the same situation. He looked at Marcus. That's why what you did matters. Not just defending yourself, but testifying, speaking out. You showed people what real courage looks like. I don't feel courageous. I feel lucky. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Marcus. It's acting in spite of fear. You were terrified. I could see it in your eyes in that video. But you stayed calm. You protected yourself and others. That's courage. James pulled Marcus close. I wish I could have protected you from ever needing those skills. But since I can't always be there, I'm glad you had them when you needed them. I love you, son, more than you'll ever know. Love you too, Dad. In the months that followed, Marcus became something he had never wanted, to be a symbol. Other teenagers reached out, sharing their own stories of harassment, discrimination, and abuse from adults who wielded petty authority like weapons. Marcus listened to them all, offering whatever support he could. He started a self-defense class for teens in his community. Every Saturday morning, a dozen kids gathered in the community center to learn not just how to fight, but how to avoid fighting in the first place. The first rule, Marcus would tell each new group, is that every fight you avoid is a fight you've won. 5 years later, Navy Ensign Marcus Chen stood on a ship deck watching the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean. He thought about that day sometimes, about the woman who had tried to hurt him and the community that had rallied around him. He'd heard that Karen had been released from prison the previous year, that she'd moved far away from Oak Ridge Heights, that she'd lost everything: her house, her reputation, her power. Marcus didn't feel satisfaction with that news. He felt something closer to sadness. Sadness that hate and fear had destroyed a person who could have chosen differently. But he also felt hope, because for every Karen Pettin in the world, there were dozens of people like Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Rodriguez, and Dr. Hayes. People who stood up, spoke out, and chose kindness over fear. His phone buzzed with a text from his father. Proud of you every single day, son. Come home safe. Marcus smiled, typing back, always do, Dad, always do. Another text came through from Tommy, the 12-year-old from the neighborhood who was now 17 himself. Hey, Marcus, remember that deflection move you taught me? Used it yesterday when some guy tried to start something at the mall. Worked perfectly. Thanks for everything, man. Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. This was why it mattered. This was why he testified, why he taught those classes, why he had chosen to turn trauma into purpose. He texted back, proud of you, Tommy. Remember, every fight you avoid is a fight you've won. The sun broke the horizon, painting the ocean gold, and Marcus Chenson, student, sailor, teacher, turned to face another day, ready for whatever came next. Because some lessons, once learned, stay with you forever. And some scars, however deep, make you stronger.